Slide 'em sideways sprint car action in Southern California. 180-mile-per-hour two-wheeled warfare at Daytona. These stories and many more today on Motorweek Illustrated. Hi, I'm Dave Despain. Welcome to Motorweek Illustrated. In the past hour, many of you enjoyed WTBS Sports' pre-recorded telecast of last Saturday's Atlanta Supercross. Well, those same riders are back in action today at Daytona. In fact, they should be wrapping up right about now. And we're going to have results from that race later in the show. Now, if you've just joined us, let's briefly recap that rainy Atlanta race. Number 4, Bob Hanna totally dominated, and by running away with the thing, Hurricane Hanna put himself in contention for a record 4th career Supercross championship. Defending series champ Mark Barnett, impressive, came through the mud from the back of the pack and inspired charge to 4th place. It was a tough race. Man and machine often abruptly separated. And just surviving in that muck was a real accomplishment. Here's Donnie Hansen, shared the Wrangler Supercross lead with Darrell Schultz going in. Hansen finished 2nd. Schultz had to settle for 3rd. And Bob Hanna's hands-down victory was the 55th major title of his career. Here are the series standings after 4 of 12 events. Hansen has won 2 races. Hanna's Atlanta win moved him up 1 spot from 4th. Well, the two-wheelers also hold the spotlight this weekend at Daytona International Speedway. The 41st annual Motorcycle Speed Week wraps up tomorrow. Daytona 200 road race. 80 riders from all over the world. Top Americans, big bucks, big prestige. Here's what the favorites say on the eve of the battle.
We've got about 10 of America's best riders here. All of them have had Grand Prix experience. They're all on the gas, and I think you'll see one of the hottest races you've seen.
It's really difficult to finish this race or have any kind of strategy going into this race if you come here for 11 years in a row and you only finish twice.
Coming down as a privateer from a little area up in Dalton, Georgia, where 10,000 bucks would buy the whole shop building and all, against these multi-million-dollar factories down here. Well, we've got really our work cut out, but I tell you what, when that checker flag drops on Sunday, we're going to be there.
Well, prior to Speed Week, Billy Labrie won the AMA's half-mile dirt track opener at Savannah, Georgia, and they'll run again at Savannah Monday night. Last Saturday, Lance Jones aced the short track at Tampa, Florida, and on Sunday, the series moved to Volusia County Speedway near Daytona.
They had a lot of rain this morning, and it's got some soft spots in it, and it makes for the thing to hook up in spots, and then it starts spinning the wheel, and it's kind of shaky out there, really. No, I don't think it'll smooth out. It'll just be the guy that can figure out a way to ride around the holes or ride through them and not wobble around.
For those who didn't wobble around, it was a lightning-fast track. For some others, a very long afternoon. These guys are some of the most resilient racers in the business. They've got to be to walk away from something like that. In the main event, pole sitter number 53, Tim Mertens, jumped to the early lead. But number 18, Terry Poovey, put on the pressure, then made the pass. Poovey went on to win handily, and he treated the crowd to a big victory wheelie.
Well, it's kind of my kind of racetrack, you know, go around the pole and not spin the tire. I kind of dig it a lot.
Poovey also took a big point lead to Memorial Stadium in Daytona, where 4 short track races wrap up that series. Bob Varsha will have more on that later in the show. Like oil and water, stock cars and snowstorms don't mix. The story when we come back. At Rockingham, North Carolina, last weekend, the 2 most dreaded words in racing rained out. Ned Jarrett has the story.
The day before, the NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National cars moved into the North Carolina Motor Speedway for the Warner Hodgson Carolina 500. The temperature was 86 degrees, but then the temperature went down, weather started deteriorating. They did get qualifying in on Thursday, and Benny Parsons put the J.D. Stacy, Waddell Wilson prepared car number 28 on the pole, and it's the first time that Benny had ever won here at Rockingham. Of course, this is his home track. He lives only about 10 miles from here. He was very pleased about being first for a change.
At last, after I don't know how many tries, Ned, must be 20, 25 tries, and finally got to pole position, but unfortunately there's 492 laps in front, and now the problem is trying to stay there for that distance, and sometimes that can be awfully difficult.
A snowstorm moved in on Friday afternoon. Rain, sleet, Snow continued on Saturday, which caused NASCAR officials to cancel a 200-mile late model sportsman race and the Union 76 pit crew competition, but they were hoping they'd get the race in on Sunday, waited until almost noon before they finally had to call it because of a wet track and continued rain. Harry Gant will be starting in third place in the Carolina 500, which has been postponed until this Sunday. Harry, of course, drives the Hal Needham-Burt Reynolds-owned car, has the Hollywood connection there. What does that do for you, Harry? Does that get you a lot of extra attention, or does it put pressure on you, or how does it affect you?
Well, no, it really gives me a lot of extra attention, you know, because we had been in here, you know, and doing mall promotions for Skoll, and everybody that comes to the malls, it's a lot of it to do with Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham. They come to the malls and they, you know, ask where Burt's at all the time, and we've got a lot of things going with Hal and Burt in the racing program here. You know, he's making a new movie, Megaforce, and we went to Hollywood, and me and Travis Carter and Johnny Hayes, we got a line apiece, but then the movie was too long, so they didn't use that part. It's really changed everything for me, and it took me a while to get used to it, but now I think I'm enjoying it more than ever.
That's the story from a cold, wet North Carolina Motor Speedway. This is Ned Jarrett reporting for Motorweek Illustrated.
0 to 250 miles an hour in under 6 seconds. Here's a man who's going to tell us how that feels. I want you to meet drag racing star Raymond Beadle. His Blue Max funny car joins a standout field of drag racers this weekend up at Commerce, Georgia. Ray, good to have you here. You're driving a 2,500 horsepower fuel dragster, basically, with a plastic body, and I'm wondering what it feels like to put that thing through a quarter mile.
Well, like I said, for me, it's not any different than going to the store, but we do a lot of things behind the starting line when we're getting ready to run the car. We're doing our burnouts, which we're heating the tires up. We're putting heat in the clutch. If the car is still trying to not run on one cylinder or something, we'll back up and we'll make another burnout.
How about that rush of acceleration? Is it pretty exhilarating for you?
Well, we don't really feel it. I think we get keyed up more depending on who we're running, and we have a bigger rush sometimes running some people than we do others.
Yeah, you've run against all the best of them. You're a 3-time NHRA champ, 3-time IHRA champ, and the only man who can make that claim. I'm wondering what's happening with drag racing. Is it growing? Is it holding its own? What's the status of the sport?
From what we've seen the last year and already the start of this year, the crowds are becoming larger and larger, and we're becoming a lot more accepted because of the TV coverage and stuff we've been receiving. We're not running as many races as we ran in the past. We used to run 90, 95 races, I'll say, like in 71, 72. Now we're only running, most of the main cars I'm talking about, 30, 35 races a year. So I think the quality's a lot better, but we're not running as many places.
What kind of costs are involved in doing that kind of a schedule?
Well, it varies from year to year because you don't know how many parts you're going to break, but it wouldn't be uncommon to spend anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 very easily. We've been real fortunate in having good sponsors, you know, like Ford and English Leather, Cam2, Real Airline. So without the sponsors, that's the whole key to our racing.
This weekend, a big invitational meet. It's no points. How come all the big guns are going to be in Commerce?
I think most of the cars are getting ready to run next weekend in Gainesville, plus they're getting ready to come back here in April to run the race here at Atlanta.
Ray, good luck this weekend. Good luck on another championship.
Thank you.
Raymond Beadle. The California Midwinter Carnival in Imperial has special significance for race fans. Here's the kickoff last weekend of the California Racing Association Sprint Car season. The CRA held 2 days of racing, a dry, slippery racetrack there at the fairgrounds. On Saturday, Bubby Jones had a real big lead, but then Chuck Gurney ran him down from behind and held on to take the victory. Gurney driving the Lowell Brothers Sprinter in that race, and he proved with that win that his Ascot victory was no fluke. He won that race 2 weeks ago. Jones salvaging runner-up finish, Schumann the day's fast qualifier. On Sunday, the Southern California desert temperatures made the track even slicker. It took 3 tries to get this one underway, and here's one of the reasons. Gary Howard in turn 1 into the bales and on his head. When they finally got it started, Gurney had his hands full with Brad Knopfsinger in the orange car. Knopfsinger led 14 laps, then Gurney made the race-winning move. Excuse me, Brad, coming through here on the low side. Gurney, a winner again, set a new track record for 20 laps, and that makes him 3 for 3 in West Coast sprint races. We're wondering who's going to be the first guy to beat him. The world of show car exotica when we come back. They called it World of Wheels, but to show car buffs, it was out of this world. The International Show Car Association took over the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta last weekend, filling the place with some of the wildest creations in all of motordom. More than 300 competitors representing some 20 show car clubs came to strut their stuff. To show car enthusiasts, these vehicles are works of art, the ultimate expression of man's love affair with cars. To the untrained eye, the show is an overwhelming expanse of chrome, velour, and translucent paint. But to the true connoisseur, one machine stands out. Crazy Horse, king of the show cars. Through 22 years of ISCA history, judges awarded only 4 perfect scores. In 1982, Tony Federline has been judged perfect 10 times. How many hours of work does Crazy Horse represent?
We've never really counted them, but I would imagine that you would be talking about probably 2,000 to 3,000 hours in just assembly time after everything is painted and prepared to put together. For example, grind the engine block to be as smooth and ready for paint as the body or the other parts that are normally painted on a car, which would take in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 hours just for the engine block and transmission and rear end.
Federline is to show cars what Richard Petty is to the Daytona 500. After this season, what's ahead?
I like the comparison. You know, Richard Petty is my hero, of course, and it's very flattering to be put in that category with what we do. I think we're probably approaching the end of what we can do in the International Show Car Association. We have had some excellent results, and we're very pleased with what we've done, but possibly it's time to consider moving on to some other form of motorsport or something like that.
Ironically, for all of its laurels, that car has never been judged national champion. I think you can look for that to change this year. You've canceled your flights to Buenos Aires, right? Tomorrow's Grand Prix there is off. The Brazilian Grand Prix will happen March 21st, and the June 21st Spanish Grand Prix, which was off, now looks like it's back on again. Also, Formula 3 ace Jonathan Palmer has signed as backup and test driver for the Williams Formula 1 team. Every racer wants a sponsor. NASCAR star Neil Bonnet has 2. He does 22 Grand National races a year for the famed Wood Brothers team. Now he's signed to drive the other 8 Winston Cup events for South Carolina businessman Bob Rogers. They'll team up for next weekend's 250-miler in Bristol, Tennessee. And Turner Broadcasting chairman of the board, our own Ted Turner, was this week named honorary starter for NASCAR's 500-miler at Atlanta International Raceway on March 21st. This week's motorcycle action goes beyond Daytona. Costa Mesa, California hosted the preseason Spring Classic for Speedway bikes last night. Motorweek Illustrated was there.
The most international motorsport of them all is Speedway motorcycle racing. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. And tonight, our Motor Week cameras focus on the famed Costa Mesa Fairgrounds in Orange County, California. The top 16 riders in all of the United States are gathered here tonight for their annual preseason tilt called the Spring Classic. The fans look forward to this race maybe more than any other. It's an important year for Speedway in this country. For the first time since 1932, an American reigns as the world champion. For the first time ever, this country will hold the World Finals of Speedway August 28th in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Now, fans all over the world may adore him, but tonight there are 15 other riders who only want a piece of the world champion, Bruce Penhall. Bruce, that number 1 on your back is just like a target.
Sure is. You know, it's hard to get to be number 1, and once you're there, it's really hard to stay there. I've got a lot of people that are aiming for me, and I don't blame them. I've always been aiming for the number 1 guy too, and now that I'm up there, it's just great to be there, and I think I'll be tougher than ever this year.
Who's going to be going after Bruce Penhall tonight? Who's the toughest competition in this Spring Classic?
Well, this is going to be one of the hardest meetings I've ridden in for a long, long time, and just all the other 15 riders are going to be tough. Bass is always fast, and Bobby Schwartz, you know, and all the Moran brothers. You know, there's a whole lot of them out there, and you know, I can't underestimate anybody at this time.
Penhall appears a little nervous in his first heat, pushing the tapes as hard as he can. Who wouldn't be nervous on a 170-pound motorcycle, making some 80 horsepower on alcohol with no brakes? Penhall falls into a comfortable second place. He passes Mike Faria, but then goes to the outside. Penhall in the deep dirt loses control. The world champ is down. He remounts uninjured, but scores no points. With 4 rides remaining, Penhall comes back with a vengeance. He sweeps events 2, 3, and 4. Now it's event 5. He must win here to force a runoff with old rival Bobby Schwartz. Penhall with a good gate, but suddenly Brad Oxley loses control, and Penhall is down again. But he remounts to win the restart and force a runoff with his old rival. The crowd loves it. One-on-one competition for the Spring Classic title between Penhall and Bobby Boogaloo Schwartz. These two teamed up to win the world's best pairs competition last year in Denmark. Penhall with a good start, so does Schwartz. But after about 2 laps, it is Penhall all the way in this quick 4-lap runoff. And Bruce Penhall, after a terrible start tonight, wins the preseason Spring Classic title here at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds in Orange County. This is Steve Evans for Motorweek, hoping that we can bring you more Speedway as the year continues.
Late breaking news from Bob Varsha, and a chance for you to speak your mind as Motorweek Illustrated continues. Safety in racing is like the weather. Everybody talks about it. Our next guest is doing something about it. He's Dr. Matt Houghton of the American Power Boat Association's Physician Advisory Commission.
Dr. Houghton, racers crash. It's an unfortunate fact of life, and boat racers crash spectacularly. What kinds of crashes cause you the biggest problem?
Well, there are 7 mechanisms of accidents, Dave. The 2 worst are the kite that packs air underneath the boat goes up and flips over, or the barrel roll, where it hooks and whips over and around, or turtles upside down.
Those, of course, are problems because they happen in the middle of nowhere, literally. You have to fly in helicopters to be able to minister to these guys. And that impact with the water is like hitting a wall, I know, at 60 miles an hour. So you have very traumatic injury to deal with. And yet the APBA, through the work of Stan Fitz and John Love and Steve Baum and a lot of other people, have a very comprehensive medical program. Tell us what they're doing.
Well, Dave, first of all, we have the continuity of medical care problem. The Race Physician Organization and Education, such as the Physician Advisory Committee under Dr. Bill Triplett, the Sacramento Safety Summit, the Uniform Medical Facility Excellence. This is the 83-page medical manual. The standardized the driver qualifications, physical exams, written and performance tests, razor education, survival skills, CPR, reaction time improvement, hazard identification, safety equipment. Each driver has to water test the equipment he wears, competitor conditioning against fatigue, trauma, or loss of judgment, and the risk management program, hazard identification, risk factor assessment, and action to change the rules or make rule enforcement a positive thing.
In about 5 or 10 seconds, how does the racer education program work? That's kind of interesting.
This is a program that the racers go through where they learn and we teach.
I see. So the driver obviously has a responsibility here for his own safety.
That's right, Dave.
Why do you do this?
Well, I'm 40, and it makes me feel like 18 again.
Good program, and keep it up, okay?
Thank you.
The SCCA Pro Rally Series, big hit here on last week's show. They moved to Salem, Missouri this weekend for the 100-acre Woods Run. New Zealanders Rod Millen and John Wolfe should be tough in that one, but don't count out last Saturday's champion racer of the week, Bruno Kreibisch. America's best rally driver, John Buffum, won't be racing. In fact, he'll probably be refereeing a hockey game. He's at home in New England awaiting delivery of a new Audi Quattro, the King Kong of rally cars. We've got a lot of late-breaking race news today. Bob Varsha has a report.
Dave, down in Daytona, Cycle Week is in full swing. There were 3 nights of short track action at Memorial Stadium. Terry Poovey, the winner, Wednesday night, while Thursday and Friday saw Ronnie Jones get it hooked up and come home a winner. Over at Daytona International Speedway, Friday saw the Superbike production race and the Battle of the Twins. Jimmy Adamo is the victor in the battle, with Long and Roper hot on his heels. The Superbike production race was a Honda sweep. Freddie Spencer led all the way, while Mike Baldwin battled Eddie Larson until the last lap when Larson ran out of gas. Today's action got underway late because of heavy overnight rains. Richard Schachter won the lightweights by a mere 2 lengths over Martin Wimmer, with Sam McDonald third. The Daytona edition of Stadium Motocross Series is just underway at the Speedway. The early leader is Darrell Schultz. The pole sitter for tomorrow's Daytona 200 will be this man coming up here, Kenny Roberts. He turned a speed of 114 miles per hour in qualifying. In Rockingham, they're still trying to run last week's rained-out Carolina 500, but the rain again today has wiped out all practice sessions, and a decision on the event will be made in the morning. Going into that race, Bobby Allison is the Grand National points leader. Joe Ruttman, the third-place man, having a strong first half of the season for J.D. Stacy. Today, Neil Bonnet, Benny Parsons, Kyle Petty, and Tom Sneva jumped on a Walter Hodgson jet to Detroit for the Super Bowl of Dirt. They will join David Pearson and Butch Lindley to race late model stocks on the dirt in the Silverdome, marking the first time stock cars have ever run indoors, and 90,000 seats were sold as of today. Also this week, the NASCAR short tracks kick into high gear with the Rattlesnake 100 in Alabama and the Rose Classic in California.
Now, the champion spark plug racer of the week. Bob Hurricane Hanna dominated last week's Atlanta Supercross, but his story is so much more. It begins in 1979. A water skiing accident shattered the kid's leg and threatened his career. First came repeated surgery, then the long road back, endless hours of conditioning, the skeptics who figured that Hurricane had become a harmless breeze. And finally, there was Atlanta, when the Hanna of old captivated the crowd, demolished the opposition. This was the Bob Hanna who won 50 major races before he was hurt. The Bob Hanna who will win so many, many more before he's through. He's our champion racer of the week. Finally, the Saudi Arabians are urging OPEC to lower, that's right, lower the price of oil. Seems there's a big overstock. And so we've come full circle. In 1973, an Arab oil boycott created the energy crisis and gave us the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. Since then, Jimmy Carter's Department of Transportation defended 55 on every grounds it could think of. Ronald Reagan was elected on a platform including repeal of 55. And still, you and I plod along out there. I want to know how you feel about 55. Here's the address. Speed limit pole, Motorweek Illustrated, Superstation, WTBS, 1050 Techwood Drive Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. Take a moment, drop Motorweek a line, tell us if you're for or against 55 and why. We'll compile the results of our poll and report them in a couple of weeks, and at that same time, we'll also give you our views on the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit. With that, we're out of time. We'll see you next week.